We are Drafty Studios, and we're happy to present Cirro's Sprint 3 milestone presentation. Hi, I'm Nicole Stocks. I am one of the producers and a VFX artist on the project.
I'm Jameson Piper, and I was co-producer, UI, and level designer on this project.
I'm Chris Cardeman, and I'm going to be working as a systems programmer.
Hi, I'm Peter, and I'm one of the gameplay programmers.
I'm Karan Singh. I'm one of the gameplay programmers, and I'm the sound designer on this project.
Hi, I'm Wesley Chun. I'm the 3D prop artist on this project.
Hi, I'm Dylan Marks, and I'm a 3D artist.
Hi, I'm Yuchun Zhang. I'm a 2D artist and visual effects artist for this project.
My name is Raymond Foster, and I worked as a level designer on this project.
Alongside the team, we have two other students helping us out, and they are Rachel Flatley, working on our 3D character, as well as Louis Artali, helping with our puzzle design.
Cirro is a 3D platforming exploration game in which the player uses the magic of wind to traverse floating islands and solve puzzles in order to restore the islands to their original positions.
And now we'll head over to the build to show off the alpha version of our game. As we get into the demo here, you'll see that one of the largest changes from this sprint has been the implementation of our 3D character. And as we move into Sprint 4, we'll definitely work on creating fluid and smooth animations and blends between animations, as well as custom animations for gliding. You'll also notice that the gust charges has been moved to the player, and as we move into the future, we will be putting that on the staff, indicating that with the staff in order to kind of reduce visual clutter with UI on the screen. You'll also see that we have created a lot of really cool environment art assets to increase the visual intrigue of the game, and that is through both more tree variation as well as retexturing the asset pack. We wanted to really encourage the player to explore and interact with the environment, which is why we have some smaller, kind of less large puzzles. And we have our new sundial art and VFX, which spins with the direction that the player is turning the day and night sundial. I'll skip through the gliding here just to show off some of the platforming that we have, just to really get the player moving around in the environment as they move over to the smaller island they're guided to. And using these crystals to really turn off and on environment aspects of the game. And that is all we have for our demo. During Sprint 3, some of Cirro's goals included modeling out our first level in Unity and retexturing some of the assets that we had from our asset pack and implementing character art that we had. It also meant starting to replace some of the placeholder hitboxes with VFX assets to polish up the game and beginning to both plan and implement narrative and cinematics for the game, as well as just constantly playtesting and iterating on both puzzle and level design. Speaking of playtesting, we got some really great playtesting feedback during Sprint 2 from peers and classmates, which led us to kind of evaluate where our design was at, and a lot of the feedback included that the player needed clarity on where they should go, and that it was hard to tell where puzzles were, and more feedback was needed during puzzles. And we kind of looked at our game overall and decided that we should make some changes to this to help guide the player through our levels more. This led to some shifts in the gameplay design of Cirro, and one of those was the introduction of the guidebook, which helps the player with maps, tutorials, and story aspects and will be a large part of our UI. And we also wanted to shift the game from having one large puzzle per level into several smaller obstacles and puzzles per level, because we really wanted to focus on the player traversing and exploring the environment, and we thought that really aligned with the original experience goals that we set out for our game to have at the beginning of the project.
Some of the major feedback we got regarding airstreams was that they felt a little too static and more like a conveyor belt than a powerful stream of air. So to combat that, we swapped to more of a force-based system that causes items to accelerate, and as a result, it's no longer like a conveyor belt, and it's more like a powerful airstream. As for changes to the gliding, the falling speed was increased to prevent from having players skip major puzzles. Additionally, hovering was implemented to make staying in the airstreams a little bit easier. Additionally, glider tilt has been adjusted to use movement direction as opposed to keyboard input, and what this does is it allows for the player to tilt while making these long sweeping turns as well as the small ones. As for what's next, we pretty much be making any further tweaks to the gliding and airstreams on an as-needed basis. as well as any systems related to the audio.
One of the first things I did this sprint was work with the art team to juice up our sundials. The new visuals look awesome thanks to our art team, and I added functionality for the star sign circle to move based on player input when the time is changing. And this was done in order to better visually communicate to the player what is happening and which way they're moving the clock. This sprint, I spent a significant amount of time working with our design team to plan out how we wanted the UI to function. We've settled on a notebook or guidebook style interface, so I spent some time getting that working for menus. We've also moved the stamina meter onto the player character, rather than having it sit statically in the UI and fade away. To better create immersion, we've also moved the gust charges meter that was text to now be visually reflected in the player's staff using VFX and emissions. Up next for me will be more time spent refining and crafting the functional elements of our user interface. We already have a solid foundation with placeholders, but our art team has been hard at work, so I'll be talking with both them and the design team to get in final assets and make sure that everything is running smoothly.
For this sprint, we changed to a stamina/sprinting movement system based on feedback to make exploration a bit more engaging. Another big change was we finally got the player into the game. So I set up some initial animations, which helps a lot with the sense of immersion. The rest of the sprint was mostly handling bugs that popped up, which is of course going to be an ongoing battle. For the next sprint, we're going to focus on getting all of the player animations in and just really making sure that everything runs super smoothly, so fine-tuning any of the timing and everything. This kind of goes along with the camera tweaks, because we want to make sure everything runs really smoothly with the added player model and animations. And then, as always, going to be chasing after any bug that pops up because that's just what we do.
During this sprint, we were able to get a very basic UI prototype built within Adobe XD. We sketched out what we wanted the UI screens to look and feel like, and then once it was in XD, it was passed along to our artist and programmer to bounce more ideas. The more finalized version will have tabs on the book and an integrated pause menu into the guidebook. There will also be less clutter on the screen as we found ways to eliminate icons on the screen so the player can feel more immersed without getting rid of everything so the information is still present. In the next sprint, we'll be working together to get a finalized version of the UI in place, and we'll be getting more environmental aspects of the world in place with the new level design setup.
Looking at the progress we've made during Sprint 3 for level design, we've been revisiting level 1 to shift from main puzzles to more environmental obstacles, where the crystals are hidden or there's traversal challenges to get to them. And we've been trying to make the progression more linear to reduce player confusion. And we've also been working on player guidance, so using techniques like framing, as you can see in the bottom right, where the island and the airstream in front of them is framed between the two pink trees, so it restricts the player's view and forces them to look that way and gives them the idea that they should go in that direction. For our next steps, we're going to finish building level 1 by adding more obstacles, and then we're also going to be playtesting more to see if our level design strategies are working, and then developing a tutorial for the player to help reduce confusion further.
So a lot of this sprint was bringing a lot of variation into the environment art. So we made 4 different flower variations and then 3 different tree variations, a pine tree, a bonsai tree, and it's like kind of like a shrine tree. It's meant to like guide the player. It's that red one, and then a maple tree. And then for going forward, we want to add more environment variation, just so we have different colors. We want to start messing by differentiating our day and night cycle by having certain VFX on or off, and then start messing with our lighting to get that ethereal feeling that we're going for.
So in terms of the 2D art, during this sprint, we mainly worked on the UI stuff, like the icons for the in-game UI, the book, crystal, and the dash icon, as well as the gas charge bar, which will show at the mid-bottom of the screen. We also made some new visual effects for the environment, like the torch light fire. For what up next in the Sprint 4, I will make more environment visual effects for the game, and based on the frame that Jamie made to make the UI for the guidebook, like some buttons, some icons, and I will also polish the in-game UI stuff and add some more details and some colors.
Along with the torch VFX, we've also been working with the player VFX to express their wind, gust, and vacuum ability, as well as creating a custom post-processing volume to tone map the world and really bring out the contrast of the colors and the shadows, as well as some other features like the bloom, motion blur, and depth of field to really bring the player's focus into the detail of their surroundings. During Sprint 3, we spent a lot of time with the narrative and story elements of our game because we really want the player to feel inspired and motivated to complete these puzzles in the world and learn more about this ancient civilization that they're exploring. And so here is the cutscene that would play upon the player completing the last puzzle, which would bring all of the islands back together.
For prop art, I worked with Chris to hook up the sundial art with the pre-existing prefab. Next, I worked on juicing it up a little bit by adding some particle systems, as well as some effects, and then a circle that spins depending on what time of day you're changing it to. The next thing I did was start working on the character animations. I went on to Mixamo, got some of the basic animations like the idle, walk, run, jump, and landing. Then I started implementing those into Unity with the help of Peter. Next, I'm going to make the various glide, blow, and vacuum animations, as well as any other animations we need.
On the comp side of things, the day and night themes are nearly complete. Because the mix changes based on the time of day, we've added chords versus arpeggios just to make sure there's not too much going on when the mixes are together, as well as harmonizing melodies so that the notes don't clash. On the sound effects side, crystal activation and dynamics footsteps have been completed, as well as page turning Foley to be used in the UI. Moving forward, both themes and the cinematic riff for islands coming together need to be completed, as well as gliding and airstream sound effects.
Thank you for watching Cirro's alpha presentation, and we hope you're excited to see more.